So, welcome back to another episode, and this is one I've wanted to do for a very long time. I played this game, Final Fantasy XI, back in 2004, and I really wanted to talk about the effect it had on my life. It really had an intense effect. It wasn't a great thing that happened. It was a really an effect that I couldn't have ever realized would happen to me personally. I always thought, hey, I play a video game, I like it, and I move on, and that was that. So this is going to be a long video. It really is. I'm just going to talk about my entire experiences with Final Fantasy XI, and you'll have to excuse me because I cannot show footage for the game because I cannot go and play the game again because I have that big of an addiction to it, and that's what I'm going to talk about. My sickness, what happened to me, and how bad it was, and how I had to stay away from this game. And I gotta say, it was really unusual taking this off the shelf today. It's been on the shelf for so many years, and it's like I put it there when I was finished Final Fantasy XI, when I finally had enough, when I finally kind of lost my mind. And so it was kind of eerie taking it out again. So let's start at the very beginning. How this innocent guy got roped into such a terrible online sickness. That's really how it all went down. Is that it was years ago. It was probably like 2003. I saw, and I was already playing Phantasy Star Online, and I loved it. That was my first real online kind of RPG, even though it was more of an action RPG, but having an RPG experience online, talking to other people, collecting weapons, going hunting, doing all this cool stuff. I mean, that's an episode into itself, which I will do. The bug bit me for online games. It really bit me for online games, and all of a sudden I was working at a software company at the time, and I saw that this brand new game, a Final Fantasy game, number 11 in the series, the next Final Fantasy game, was going to be an online MMO. Multiple people playing online in the Final Fantasy universe. It sounded beyond exciting. And I will never forget, I was on my computer and my supervisor walked by, and it was pretty okay to look at trailers every once in a while. It was not that big of a deal. And he walked by, and I'd watched the trailer like 3 or 4 times in a row. And he's like, he came by my cubicle and he's like, dude, he goes, you're drooling. Because I was like this. I was like so into it, and my imagination was going crazy, imagining going with my friends out there into this world, exploring this massive, like, Phantasy Star Online to me had sections of a world. It wasn't a complete world, where Final Fantasy Online was promising a complete world that I could explore with my friends, and it was going to be massive. I was more than excited, I can tell you. So it came out in Japan, and PC players were playing it, but I was waiting for a home console, and a terrible thing had happened to me. I had lost my job, not for watching trailers at work. The company went out of business. It actually went out of business. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I mean too much time on my hands, and that was another problem as well. This came out in 2004, and I gotta show you this. This is the big box it came in, because this was for PlayStation 2, and this was the hard drive. You needed a hard drive to play Final Fantasy XI online with the PlayStation, and it was really eerie pulling this all out. But here is my PS2, and then here is the hard drive, and this is what happens. You put this in the back, just like so, and there's your unit. Then you put on Play Online. That was Square's big online service. They had huge plans for it. It was just a big pain in the ass, really. It really didn't ever amount to anything, except a huge install just for Play Online before you could even install the game. So I sat there, and I have photos of all this, of me installing the game, and my anticipation, my frothing demand for this game was increasing. I was really getting excited, and I got online. I finally got online, and I started off in the city of Bastock, and I was running around, and just as a backstory too, I was part of a really big forum at the time, so I knew like about 100 or so people in this forum, and we were all getting the game. Could you imagine? So we were all meeting up in the first few days, and it was insane. I remember running around the first city, and I quite literally felt lost. I felt not only lost, I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? I met up with one of my good friends, and he became one of my best friends in this game. We had so many adventures, it was beyond reality. And I met up with him. His name was Too Extreme in the game. I think his name was Soul Zero in this version. But I met him in Phantasy Star Online. He was such a good friend of mine. And he came, he was like my right-hand man. We were like brothers in this game. So it took us about 15 minutes of talking to each other. We finally met up in the game. And we were just like, wow, this is incredible. Like, it wasn't kind of like, this is okay. It was like, fucking shit, this is awesome. And we left the city and started fighting bees, you know, outside in the desert. And I was having a great time. I mean, a great time. And before I knew it, it was dark outside. I think I'd started playing the game about 2 in the afternoon. I got some food, and all of a sudden I looked at my watch, and it was 11 at night. I'm like, holy crap. And that's kind of started to, you know, that was the beginning of the germ that happened to me. I was up the next morning at like 8 in the morning, and I just started. And I started to put in 8 to 10 hour days in the game, like a real life job. And I was loving it. Like, let's be honest here. My problem with the game was that I loved it so much. It was such an incredible, horrifying addiction that what ended up happening is that I started going on quests. I mean, I became the leader of the entire guild. The guild was called the Inner Circle, like a community that I built in Phantasy Star Online. I transferred into Final Fantasy Online, and everybody became part of this guild, and this guild started becoming a big deal to run, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I started doing huge raids, and you know, this is the adventures you go on, getting your first chocobo, the first time you get on a ship and go to a brand new land, the first time, you know, you get to, go to a brand new place to level up you've never been. It was really exciting. And this, let me tell you, the Japanese made this game, and they really didn't have a lot of experience at this point making MMOs. So let me say, this game was incredibly difficult. I mean, insane. It was really, really hard. If you like got killed in the game, you would de-level. You would lose experience and de-level. I mean, the craziest things would happen to me. I'd be out there in some part of the land I shouldn't be in, fighting some monster, and you really needed to group in the game originally. You don't anymore from what I've heard. I'd be out there fighting some monster, and it would kill me, and I remember de-leveling nearly like 2 levels or something. It was crazy. And I had all this equipment just based for that level, so I was naked because I couldn't equip that equipment. That's how brutal the game was. The game was so insane. I mean, I could go into stories upon stories within the game that should just be an episode in itself. Final Fantasy XI stories, all the crazy adventures I went on with my friends. It was wild. It was wonderful. I was having a great time, but there was a casualty, and that was my life. I wasn't doing anything except for this game. I wasn't applying for jobs. I wasn't talking to friends. I mean, at all. Nobody. Nobody. The phone would ring and I just let it ring. I didn't care. It kind of got to that point. Eating. Like, this has to be said. This is a strange, unusual thing too. I'd be playing the game. I'd be so into the freaking game. I never wanted to leave it. Ever. Ever. And that's the important thing too. I would run out. Like grab a sandwich, and come back in like a minute. I'd be eating, and this sounds crazy too. I started getting the worst indigestion every day because I was sitting on the floor, eating, hunched over, eating super fast, and hunched over, and I was always hunched over just playing this game. I even took photographs of what my setup used to look like. You know, isn't that crazy? And yeah, I have, you know, photos of what it used to be like back then, how I had it all set up, and I just sat there, because I was a smoker back then, smoking, playing this game, and had stuff around me so I could eat. You know, and I'd have water here, and tea here, and a sandwich here, and chips here, so I didn't have to leave. It sounds like a lot of fun, And let me tell you, it was. But the price it started to pay, pay on me was too much. The toll was too much. Played the game for 3 months. But 1 month, get this, 1 month was playtime. And I mean real playtime. Not standing around, waiting for party members. It was playtime. We had static parties going all the time. There was always something to do in this game. Had to get my artificial armor as a Dark Knight. I played a Dark Knight. Sorry, I was a Hume Warrior and then turned to Dark Knight later on. And yeah, it was all about getting dexterity equipment. And oh God, I could keep on going. So it got absolutely nuts. The toll on my life was crazy. Girls I was seeing were coming over to see me, which was great. But I gave them no attention. And I'm not that kind of person. I was like, hey, check out my character in this game I'm playing. Check out this, look at these people I'm playing with. I was so into the game that reality started to take a back seat. Friends took a back seat. Eating, everything, even sleeping. I didn't, I just went to sleep so I could get up to play the game. First thing I'd do is jump into the Mog House to see if any of my equipment sold and how much money I had. And as I say, the game was so hard that to make money back then in the game, you were digging in the dirt for a lot of it. You were digging in the dirt. Until this one time, I struck gold. Where I went to this tower with my friends and we knew that this bracelet would appear with, like, if you killed the slime, which would randomly appear at 3 places on this huge staircase. 3 places. If you killed it and it had a 1 in, like, I don't know, 50 or what, I can't remember the actual number. If it dropped this bracelet, and it's very rare to get. You have no idea how insane it was to even attempt to go and get this thing. But if you could get it, you could sell it for a bomb back then in the game. So we were all excited and we got to the tower. And as we got to the tower, we realized that waiting in the staircase were all these Japanese bot players. They just sat there. So as soon as a slime appeared, they automatically started to attack it. So we were like, what are we going to do? So we just started running up and down the stairs, hoping that it would randomly generate and we would get there. We were there for a few hours. We were there for quite a few hours. I think we did it the first night. We did not. We didn't. I think we killed the slimes. We didn't even get anything. Nothing important. And then I'll never forget this moment. And these are the moments that kept me there. You have to understand. I'm just there. I run up the stairs. The slime appears. The Japanese player goes to get it. I attack. I was getting to the point where I could attack before he did. And I initiated it. And I got the slime. I killed the slime. And I look in my inventory. I fucking got the bracelet. And I almost started... I almost started crying. I was like... And I'm fucking freaking out. My friend is freaking out. We felt like $1 million. I can't, and we left that terrible, horrible tower and those Japanese bot players behind. We got to the city, Juneau. We put it up for auction and it sold nearly instantaneous. I think we got like $1 million plus and we split it. And so I could at that point upgrade my Dark Knight and you can see the addiction. We would all talk about, we were all in this game and we would all be talking to each other within the game about how sick we all were and how like, yeah, I'm gonna quit this game. Yeah, next week I'm done. It's over. I'm not doing this anymore. And we'd all be there the next day and there would be tons of us there the next day. And yeah, where I just reached a point, and this is true. This is true. I reached a point where I'm like, I felt sick. I felt mentally sick. The MMO addiction sickness, which is like a drug addiction. Let me tell you, it is a drug addiction. It's gross. It's horrible. And any of you guys have played online games, you know this more than anybody. It's nothing that you, after a while, that you want to even be doing, but you can't. You've invested so much time into your character and everything of your character. Your character is you. Your character is a representation of you and of your time. Where I don't know what happened. I hit a point, I'm like, I'm done. I have to end this. And I had to end this intensely. And I was the leader of the guild, but I had to quit this. And I went up to all my friends and I said, listen guys, I'm leaving this game. And everybody said, no, you're not. No, whatever. I said, no, I'm going to give you all my money and all the equipment I can. I'm going to give it's all yours. And I was worth a lot of money in this game. at this point. And I think everybody was really sad to see me go, but they were also very happy to be getting some of this great equipment. But people were bummed out. People were really, really upset that I was leaving, that I had the courage to leave. And it really was that. And you have to understand, it was like a drug addiction. It's like, I need to quit, but I don't want to quit. Holy shit. And I was all nervous, and the time finally, I gave out all my equipment, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I gave out everything. And I'm there in my underwear in the game. And I'm like, I was max level, all that kind of crap. And I was like, it's done. And everybody stood there. And I'm like, and this became a bit of a meme and a bit of a joke for a while. I did a countdown. I needed to do it psychologically to leave. And I'm like, 10 seconds till I'm off this shit. And I'm like, 10, 9, 8. And I did the whole countdown. I'm like, 3, 2, 1. And I just logged out of play online. And it was it was not easy to delete your character back then. Nothing was easy, but I was able to kind of delete the character, and I removed play online. I did all of that stuff. I had to do all of that. And the big moment was when I took the PlayStation, I'd shut everything down, and I'd taken the hard drive, and I'd taken it out, and I held it in my hand, and I was angry at it. I was physically looking at it, seething, and so mad that my life had been in this. And it had destroyed my life. It was all in a digital form, and it had such a hold on me. And it felt so insane. I was putting it back into like a coffin. You know, I was putting it back into a coffin in the box, and I put everything up, and I put it in the shelf, and I went and sat in the other room, and I sat down, and I lit a cigarette because I was a smoker then. I'm like, and I sat there for about 5 minutes. Then I'm like, I made a great mistake. I need to get back. And I ran into the room, and I got off the shelf, and I wanted to put it back. I'm like, no, fuck no. Put it back. And I put it back, and I went and sat in the other room. And I sat there. All my mind was doing was thinking, I gotta go back. I gotta go back. I can't not play that game. I can't not play that game. And it was really horrible. And I don't know how I got to the evening. That's just like at 4 o'clock. And it's like 9 at night. I'm sitting there and I'm jonesing. It's like I got a real drug addiction. I feel the withdrawal to Final Fantasy at this point. I'm feeling the withdrawal, and I'm kind of like, fuck, what am I gonna do? What am I doing? What do I want to do? Nothing's as fulfilling as that. That's how bad it was. And now this is no joke. I couldn't make this shit up. I got a 6-pack of beer. I put it in the fridge, and I sat on the couch. And I'm like, okay, let's put it on the TV, find something to watch. And the movie was Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman playing an autistic man, you know, very smart autistic man. It's kind of like how I was at the time. I'm not kidding. It was kind of like doubling my life. And I sat there and I cracked my first beer, and I'm like, and I sat there and I'm like, I want to go and play the game. I want to fucking go and play the game. And I'm like, no, sit here. And I was going through withdrawals. I really was going through withdrawals of this video game. I couldn't believe this was really happening. And finally, I had drank all 6 beers, and I was like, hey, I think I'm going to go to bed. And I want to play, like, you know, I'm going to bed. And I went to bed, and I woke up, and I still wanted to play the game. And I did for weeks. And I just tried to fill my life, getting back to normal, getting back to my friends, getting back to my family, getting back to finding a job again, and all of those things. But it was so weird. I'll never forget that time period in my life. It was absolutely fantastic, and it was one of the best RPG experiences of my life. It was really like I was in a real Dungeons & Dragons world, and with my friends, and we went on the most amazing adventures that felt real and were real. They were real adventures. They were real things that you could never simulate in a one-player experience. An online game with your friends, you make the experience kind of real. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. And I look back with fondness, but also freakiness about what had happened to me. And it's so freaky still to me now that I didn't even want to go on to you know, like the Xbox or anything like that, and install Final Fantasy XI just to kind of play it to capture footage to overlay the video. Because I kind of was nervous. It's kind of like, oh, I'll do that drug again just to show them what it used to be like to do drugs. It's that real to me. And it's one game that I have to stay away from. It was one game that had such a moment with me. And God, that music. I mean, when I hear that music, and the music is excellent in Final Fantasy XI. From the battle music to Bastog's music to the planes music, it just goes on and on. It was a really wonderful experience and a fantastic time in my life, and one of the worst video game experiences in my life, dealing with addiction that I couldn't change. I was so hopelessly addicted to this game more than anything, more than people, more than friends, more than food, more than sleeping, more than anything, and it really had its toll, but I was able to get out the other side of it, and it's great to be able to wear a fun Final Fantasy shirt now and look back on this experience in my life, and wow, what an experience it was in my life, and I'm really happy that I could share it with you guys today. So anyways, guys, until next time.